Bcom semester 3 English medium. Guys, today we are going to start a new chapter, that is industrial growth and prospect in India. So the material I have some important points in this chapter, and there are some other points also which are not important for your we can say with the exam perspective, and that point might not be considered in your syllabus also. So we will not look into it, and we will only do the points which are included in your syllabus. So guys, first of all, the title says that industrial growth and prospect in India. What does the industrial growth means? So in India there are three different sector. The one is primary sector, which is totally emphasis on agriculture product. The other is industrial sector, which is based on the production of different goods and also the machinery and other productive equipments. And the third sector is service sector. In the service sector, we can consider banking, insurance, transportation, communication, tourism. All these industries are in the service sector. So in India, India has, we can say, from the past, India is totally dependent on the agriculture sector, and most of the people living in India are associated with the agriculture sector. So it is very necessary to have some industrial growth in the country, so that we can develop our country well, so that we can develop our economy well, and we can be the developed country if the industrial growth is very high. So it is very important to have our industry very developed and grown, so that we need to have some industrial growth in our country. So guys, now we will see what the chapter has some explanation about the different points. The first is industrialization must for economic development. As we know it very well, industrialization plays vital and crucial role in the economic development of an underdeveloped nation compared to the developed nation, which are largely industrial economies. So the underdeveloped nation are probably predominantly agricultural economics, as we are. Industrialization in such underdeveloped nation is dependent on the role of agricultural sector. In India, industrialization plays an important role in the modernizing agricultural and improving productivity in that sector. Similarly, agriculture plays an important role in the industrial development of industrialization, accelerate economic growth in the following various way. So guys, there are certain points which explain us that why do we need to have an industrial growth in our country. And it is also very important that, as the explanation says, that when the country is underdeveloped or it is going through the developing stage, uh, the country is largely dependent on the agricultural sector. And when there is an industrial growth, we can get high productivity by using or we can say by modernizing our in the our agricultural sector, and by using the, we can say, highly developed machineries to get high production from the land that we are having for the agricultural purposes. Now guys, there are certain points which conveys us the message that why do we need to have a growth of industrialization. Industrialization increase per capita income. Through the industrialization, we can increase the per capita income. Industrialization expand employment opportunities, so that we can say people get the employment opportunities, and there will be no such unemployment in the country. Then industrialization brings increasing returns. Then industrialization builds a self-reliant and self-sustained economy. Industrialization generates modern attitudes. Industrialization ensures growth with stability. Industrializations provide expanding markets. Industrialization increase national income. So guys, here we can see that how the industrialization and the growth of industries are important to any country. So it is important in each and every sector, and it also helps, we can say, the per capita income, national income. It also helps to grow the economy with more stability. It also helps to have modern attitudes. So guys, this is how we can say the industrialization, or we can say the growth of industry in the country is very important. Now we will see the industrial structure. form or structure of industries which is existing in a country is known as industrial structure. Now, what is industrial structure? Means the form of the industry that which is existing in a country is a form of industrial structure. Nature of industrial structure is not static; it is changeable from time to time. Present structure of Indian industries is different than earlier. To change in industrial structure or industrial development or growth during the planning era can be divided into two phases. So guys, here, into four phases. So guys, here we have some phases and the time, duration of the time in which how the industry has changed its nature and how the growth rate of the industry has been increased in the different phase of the time duration. There are first phase, high growth phase, from 1951 to 66, 1965, 66. In these 15 years of the time, we can say the growth rate was very high in the industrial sector. Building up the strong industrial structure, it was the period from the beginning of the first plan to end of third plan, which laid the foundation for industrial development by building up a strong industrial structure. So, guys, as we can know that once when India get independent, and when the we can say the first plan was introduced, first 5 year plan was introduced. At that time, India, or we can say the country, has focused on the industrialization, and at that time, country also has focused on some of the sectors to get developed as soon as possible. And based on that, government also had focused on some infrastructural facility that people will get good road facilities, so that we can say good transportation facilities, good communication facility, good educational facility, good banking facilities. Good Government had also focuses on some of the industries of the defense, atomic energy, iron, steel and industry, heavy machinery industry, coal industry, railway industry, airline industries, telecommunication industry, electricity industry. So that was the time. In that time, government focuses on some basic needs of the people, and also to make India strong, government also focuses on we can say the energetic or atomic energy companies, iron company, steel company. Based on that, we can say that when India get independence and when the first 5 year plan was introduced, government had focused on the various sector to get developed. And in those 15 years of the time, from first 5 year plan to the end of third 5 year plan, there was high growth rate of industries in the country. And now, guys, we will see the second phase, industrial it was just opposite the acceleration, deceleration and structural retrogression from 1966 to 80. So guys, in the phase 2 there was quite less rate of growth in of the industrialization in India. Let's see what has written in this phase is also known as low growth phase or industrial deceleration, particularly the period from 1965 to 1974, as shown in table 1. As we have the table 1 below, we will see it later. But you also need to do the focus on that in the phase 2 there were no quite high growth rate of industrialization. So in India, in the phase 2, means the time duration from 66 to 1980, that was the time in which the rate of growth of industrialization was very low. And when the question will be asked as an MCQ in your exam, that in which phase the rate of growth of industrialization is low or the high, so that you must know this thing, that in the phase 2 the rate of growth of industrialization is very low. Now guys, we will read further. The rate of growth fell steeply from 9% per annum during the third plan to mere 4.1% per annum during the period of 1965 to 1974. So it has increased from 9% to 4%, as you can see here. It is also important to point out that even this merge rate of industrial growth does not express the true situation, as there was a sharp increase of 10.6% in industrial production in the year 1976 to 77. If this year is left, or then the rate of industrial growth over the 10-year period 1965 to 74 declines further to merge 3.7% per annum. In a similar way, the rate of growth of 6.1% per annum during the fifth plan owes considerably to 10.6% increase recorded in the year 1976 to 77. So guys, as you can see, that was the time in that period of the time, the rate of growth of the industrialization was very low. It has we can say it has decreased from 10% to 4%, and we can understand the situation at that time, that how much gap has we have as we have shown compared to the previous rate of growth of the industrialization in the country. So guys, this is what the phase 2 says us, that the how India has got less rate of growth of the industrialization in the phase 2. And here, annual compound growth rate in index numbers of the industrial production, here we are given the data from 51 to 1980, and we can compare the data, that how the rate of growth of industrialization has decreased from the first phase to the second phase. Basic goods, here we are this is the data of 4 years. Here the basic goods 4.7. Then in 1955 to 1960, the basic goods worth of in the percentage it is 12.1. Then 1960 to 1905 it is 10.4. In 1965 to 1974, 6.5. You can see how has this decreased after 1960. So guys, here you can also compare all the data given in this table, and get to know about the situation in the phase 2. So that guys, you must remember this thing, that in the phase 2, the rate of the growth of industrialization has decreased very widely, very largely, and it has impacted on the on the Indian economy very greatly. Now, guys, we will see decline in the growth rate of capital good industries and the basic industries in the period after third plan clearly represent the phenomenon of structural retrogression. It is also observed that where growth has been moderately high, a majority of the industries belong either directly or indirectly or sorry to client-oriented consumption goods sector. This is illustrated by disproportionately large increase in the output of man-made fibers, beverages, perfumes, and cosmetics, commercial, office, and household equipment, watches, and clothes, and fine varieties of clothes. So, guys, here you can see that how the production has increased of the different goods, and how some of the goods has been neglected in those phase. So, by that we can say it was the there was the low rate of the growth of industrialization in the country. And guys, here we are given a very important point, causes of deceleration or and retrogression of the growth of industrialization in India. What were the causes? What were the reason? So let's see. Several explanations were offered for the phenomenon of declaration and retrogression in the industrial sector during the phase 2. The government expressed the view that exogenous factors such as the wars of 1965 and 71, drought condition in some years, infrastructural constraints and bottlenecks, and the oil crisis in 1973 were the responsible for the slow down of growth. So guys, here the government has given the declaration about, and the government has given the excuses, or we can say the reason for the low rate of growth of industrialization in the country was, government has told that it was the factors such as the war of 1965 5 and 1971, and then there were drought, there were in some of the years there were no rains, and India had got very less amount of production from the agricultural sector, so it also impacted on the production, or we can say the growth rate of the industrialization in the country. And also one of the reasons for infrastructure constraint and bottlenecks and oil crisis of 1973 were the responsible for the slowdown of the growth. So guys, government has given some of the reasons for, or we can say some of the causes or the reason for the low growth rate of the industrialization in the country in the phase 2. Now guys, here we will skip this point, as you can read this. This is totally an explanation of the phase 2's condition and what was the situation in the phase 2 from the year we can say 1966 to 1980, and why there was the low rate of industrial growth, and who was the responsible behind that. All these things has been considered, and view of some economists have also been given in this. Now guys, we will see here phase 3, the period of industrial recovery. In the phase 2 there was a high rate of growth of the industrialization. Then guys, in phase 2 the rate of industrial growth has had been decreased at a very great level. And in phase 3 India has got recovery in the industrial growth. So guys, the phase 3 has a period of 1981 to 1991. It is a time of 10 to 11 years. The period of 1980s can broadly be termed as a period of industrial recovery. This is clearly brought out by study of revised index of industrial production based 1980-81. Rates of industrial growth based on this index are represented in the table below. So guys, here we have the table which in which we can compare the percentage of the rate of growth of different goods, whether it is a basic goods, whether it is a capital goods, whether it is a intermediate goods, whether it is a consumer goods. In the consumer goods there are two different goods. The one is durable and the other is non-durable goods. So guys, here we can compare the data given in the table. The data of 1981 to 85, 1985 to 90, and 90 to 91. So guys, here we can get the data and we can get to know about the growth rate of the industrialization in the country. So based on that, we can say that India had get recovery in the third phase. India had quite increased the rate of growth of the industrialization in the country in the phase 3. So it was the time when the question will be asked in your exam as an MCQ, that which phase is considered as a recovery of industrial growth rate in India. Then you can clearly say that it is the phase 3 which is considered as the recovery of industrial growth in the India. And as you can when you read this explanation given below the table, you can get clear idea about the increment of the rate of growth of the industrialization from the phase 2 to phase 3, that how much has the rate of the growth rate of the industrialization has been increased in the data. Now guys, here we have some of the basic points, that causes of industrial recovery. What are the causes of industrial recovery? Why had India got the recovery in the third phase in the industrial growth? Let's see guys. New industrial policy and liberal fiscal regime has been declared by the government. One of the main causes of industrial recovery during 80s was the liberalization of industrial and trade policies by the government. When there was very low rate of growth of the industrialization in the country, in phase 2 government has issued and government has done the liberalization and had taken off some of the restriction on the industries, so that there was very high, or we can say government can recover the rate of growth of the industrialization in the country by doing liberalization of industrial and trade policies. Now guys, the second point is the important features of the liberal fiscal regime were maintenance of high budgetary deficit year after year, then the resort to massive borrowing, often at a high interest rate, and the encouragement of this saving. All these phenomena were cleverly witnessed in the eighth plan. So guys, as we can see, this point is not considered in the syllabus as well as exam, but we will do it very fastly. That there are some causes of the recovery of the industrialization, or we can say the growth of industrial growth of the industry in India. The first one is new industrial policy and liberal fiscal regime. Second point is contribution of the agricultural sector. Agricultural sector has also given a very good contribution to the national income, and by this country has got, we can say the nation has got high rate of industrialization in the country. Then the third point is the infrastructure factor. There was we can say resurgence in the infrastructure investment in 80s, as against only 4.2% per annum increase in the infrastructure investment during the 1965-66 to 1975-76. The increase was as high as 9.7% per annum during 1979 to 80 to 1984-85. Infrastructural investment rose further by 16% in 1985-86 to 80.3 in the 1986-87. So guys, here no need to do much pressure on this point, because here are some of the explanation about how India has got the recovery in the year 1980 to 1991. So there are the 5 year of the phases, and we can say there are the data of the 5 years, and we can compare those 5 years growth with other 5 years in the third phase, which has the duration of 10 years. Now guys, the fourth point is growth of service sector. In India, the service sector has the highest contribution in the national income, is about almost 60% contribution is given by the service sector. Now we will see there was a significant increase in the government expenditure on all services in the 80s. The consumption pattern of the service class is less food intensive and more oriented towards the durable consumer goods. Therefore, the consumption pattern of we can say effective demand in it is changed in favor of consumer durable goods. As a result, consumer durable were pushed to the forefront of the growth, fast growth of the consumer durable goods sector of the rate of industrial growth. And guys, with the growth of the service sector, it is also focused that the we can say the durable goods industry get the highest production rate, and they produce more goods, and they could be able to sell um, the durable goods in the market. And by this we can say the companies which were producing the durable goods get highly growing environment at that time in the country. And by producing the durable goods, the companies of producing durable goods get the growth in at that time in the third phase, we can say. Okay guys. Okay, guys, after this, now we will see the phase four, reform phase, July 1991 onwards. So, guys, from July 1991 till today, there is a phase four, and in this phase, there are much variation and much fluctuation in the growth rate of the industrialization in the country. Overall, it is a positive side, or we can say a positive time for the industry to get developed in the country. But let's read in it. The worst industrial growth was observed in 1991-92. The recovery in industrial growth started in 1992-93, when it grew at a rate of 2.3%, followed by 6% in the 1993-94. These were the initial adjustment years. In the response to the reforms, the industrial growth then accelerated to 9.1% in 1994-95 and 13% in 95-96, surpassing the growth rate of 80s. After the initial birth pangs of the competitive economy were over, the benefits of liberating Indian industry from the snakel of control Raj were clearly visible by 90s. So, guys, after the year 1991-92, it was a time when there was very worst, or we can say very bad, very negative growth rate of the industry. But after 92, India has get high rate of growth of the industrialization year by year. So we can say it is a time of positive environment, or we can say favorable environment in the country for the growth rate of, or we can say accordance with the growth rate of the industrialization in the country. Now, guys, we will see here when most of the experts expected that India will enter in a period of sustainable growth, the growth performance slowed down. The Indian industrial growth declined to 6.1% in 1996-97, which was much lower than the 13% growth of the previous year. The deceleration of industrial growth continued in 1997-98 as well. The main reason for the slowdown may be the tightening of the monetary policy in 1995-96 and consequent credit squeeze with high interest rate. Again, guys, there was a time when there was slowdown of the rate of the industrialization growth. It was a time of 1996-97 to 1997-98. these 2 year, there was a low rate of growth of the industrialization because government has adopted some kind of tightening, some kind of we can say unfavorable monetary policy in 1995 1996, and it has impacted on the rate of growth of the industrialization in the country. Now guys, we have the table 3, and you can read this table to know about the overall growth rate and the manufacturing companies from 1991 to 2005 April December, that as the data is given here in this table. You can read this, you can compare this, and you can also read this explanation, as I can say that this point is also not considered in your syllabus. It might happen that it might has considered, so you need to read it out. And now we will see structure of the industrial sector and 5 year plans. On the eye of the first 5 year plan, the industrial development in India was confined largely to the consumer goods sector. The important industries being cotton, textiles, sugar, salt, soap, leather, goods, and paper. Thus, the industrial structure exhibited the features of an underdeveloped economy. Industries manufacturing intermediate product like coal, cement, steel, power, alcohol, non-ferrous metal, chemicals, etc. were also established, but their production was small as productive capacity was considerably below the requirement of the requirement. As far as the capital goods sector is concerned, only on a small beginning had made. On the whole, while consumer goods industries were well established, producer good industries large considerably behind. Okay, so as we can see the structure of industrial sector with the 5 year plans, then when we talk about the first 5 year plan, uh, which was started in 1951 and has ended in 1955. In those 5 years, we can see in this expression that compared to the consumer goods industries, the producer goods industries were a very high rate of growth, and at that time we can say the intermediates, or we can say the industries which are associated with good sector, as we can take an example, industries being cotton, textile, sugar, salt, soap, leather goods, and paper. These are the industries, such kind of industries has high rate of growth in the first 5 year plan in the country. Now guys, here we are given the second 5 year plan, and again in that time what was the situation of the rate of the growth of the industrialization in the country. And this is how the second 5 year plan, then the third 5 year plan, then the fourth 5 year plan, then the 5 5 year plan are given, the second and the third plans. So here we are given the data and the explanation about the different 5 year plans, as well as the situation of the rate of the growth of the industrialization, and how was the structure of the industries in the country at that time. So we can see, and you also can read this data as it is given in your syllabus, and you can also compare this data with the different time period uh, of the 5 year plans, and as well as the structure of the industries. So here, what is there in the fourth 5 year plan? What is there in the three 5 year plan? You can read this data, and understand whole the concept completely. And still, if you left with any query or the confusion, you can ask me for a specific question for a specific topic. If you don't get, or if you don't get understand, then I will try my best to explain it with you very well, and will help you out in a very great sense. Guys, now we will see industrial production during this plan increased only by 4% per annum against the target of 8 to 10% per annum. Sluggishness of demand, shortage of basic input, labor unrest, and low capacity utilization were mainly responsible for the poor performance of the industrial sector during this plan. So, guys, yes, we have given the data of different plans, different years, different times, with the structure of the industrialization in the different period of the time. Now we will see fifth 5 year plan. It was the time of 1974 to 1979. The fifth plan focused on rapid development of the core sector covering steel, machine building, power, coal, petroleum product, and export-oriented industries and consumer goods industries such as sugar, drugs, textile, etc. So, guys, as we are talking about the fifth five-year plan, the duration of 1974 to 1979, uh, there are government has focused on some of the companies and some of the industries like this too. The industrial growth was slow despite the introduction of several incentives to private sector. The following were the reason for slow growth. So what was the reason for the slow growth in the fifth five-year plan, which has the duration of 1976 to 1980? Let's see what were the reason behind the low growth rate of the industrialization in the country in the fifth five-year plan. The first reason was imbalance in production of basic industrial inputs. So there was imbalance in the production of the basic industrial input. Then the second, uh, unremunerative prices, and the third is industrial unrest. So guys, these are the three reason behind the low rate of the growth of the industrialization in the country. And now we'll move further. What was the situation in the sixth plan, what was the situation in the seventh plan, and you need to read this very clearly, as well as what were there in the eighth five-year plan. Timing was 1992 to 1997. And guys, again we will see uh, the different situation and different time zone. And in the 10th plan, it was the time of 2002 to 2007. The first 3 years of the 10th plan, we can say witness high industrial growth rate. So what were the fluctuation has been happened in the different time period of the five-year plans, with we can say the structure of the industrialization in the country. And here in this data we can, in this table we can say annual growth rate of industrial production in the major sector of the industries, and mining and quarrying industry, then manufacturing industry, electricity industry. So there are some of the industry which has a certain number, or we can say certain percentage of the rate of growth in the country in the different time zone. Yes, we can see the data of 2002, 2003, 2003, 2004, 2004, 2005. So here we have the data. And guys, comparative growth rate in the industrial sector 1980 2000. So now let's read under it. So, guys, here the point says that the industrial sector has been the focus of much of the economic reforms carried out over the last decade of 20th century. So that was the time of 1991 to the year 2000. The reform of the 1990s, which had removed the entry barriers to investment, open trade, provide free access to foreign technology, open up foreign direct investment, and removed barriers inhibiting access to capital markets, were expected to result in sustained high growth in industrial production. So, guys, here from the year 1980 to 2000, there was much, we can say, the contribution of the government as well as the private sector, and there were much fluctuation of the rate of the growth of the industrialization in the country in the year 1998 to 2000. Comparative growth rates in the industrial sector. Government has also uh, done the privatization, liberalization, as well as the globalization. Based on that, we can say the the rate of the growth of the industrialization in the country is very high, was very high in that time. Now we will see the data given here, and growth rate in industrial sector. Here the data of 1980 to 2002, and here we have the weight based annual average annual growth rate, average annual growth rate of different time period. And what were the situation in 2003 4? Here the comparison table is given over here. We will not see it deeply because it is not important as the perspective with the perspective of your exam. Though it is given in your syllabus, you need to study it well, you need to understand it well. You also need to do the comparison of different the rate of growth is given in this table, and need to understand it very clearly. guys, we will see the very important point, that is industrial development in India. So as we can see with the perspective of your exam point of view, this point is very important. From this chapter we will see it: increase in overall production. So important changes that have occurred in the industrial structure during the planning era as follows. What has happened, how the development of the industrial sector is done in or we can say has is happened in India. Then in India, increase in the overall production. So as the population is also increased and the capacity of the production is also increased in India. So in the if we talk about the development of the industrial development in India, then the first thing is in India, the India, it has increased in the overall production capacity. Now the second thing is, we will see over here, building up of infrastructure. So in India there are now a good facility of power, good facility of transport, good facility of communication, good facility of port, good facility of banking and finance, and there are highly qualified and skilled human resources. So here the infrastructure is very good, and that's why our economy, or we can say the rate of growth, is increased of the industrialization in the country. Now, guys, third point that we have on the screen is building up of heavy and capital goods industries. In India, the heavy and capital good industries also has been established by the government as well as some of the other private companies, and based on that, we can produce or we can say that we can do the development of heavy machine building up industries and also capital good industries with a view to strengthening the industrial base of the economy. So, guys, this is how the building up of the heavy and capital good industries get the high rate of growth of the industrialization in the country. Now, the fourth point is growth of elite and non-essential consumer goods. Now, we'll read in this. There has been a noticeable growth of industries which cater to needs of high income urban based elite section of the society. Major cycles, scooters, refrigerator, TV, air conditioner, fans, washing machines, and cosmetic, etc., recorded significant growth after independence, particularly since 1980. So, guys, as we have read, this kind of good has were in the demand in that time, and based on that, when there is high demand, we also need to do the higher production, and when the production was high, it directly give the effect on the economy, and we get the high rate of the growth of the industrialization in the country. And the fifth point is that is emphasizes on chemicals, petrochemicals and allied industries in the eights, whereas the fastest growing sector in the earlier period was industrial group comprising the basic metal and metal products and machinery, both electronic and non-electronic. So, guys, in the fifth point, we can clearly see that the government has focused on the different kind of industry to get the development, and it has successfully developed some of the industries at a considerable level. And so that's why in the we can say in the development of the industry in India, it has also uh, a considerable point in it. Now we will see the sixth point, that is emergence and expansions of the public sector. Public sector is also had been expanded in our country, and public sector have given major contribution in the we can say the in giving the services to the citizens of the country, and also in the production of different goods and services in the country. So expansions of public sector, or we can say the emergence and the expansion of public sector, has also developed our economy, or we can say the rate of growth in our country is at a very considerable level. Now the seventh point that we have on the screen is diversification of private sector. The capacity and strength of the private sector has grown considerably since independence. Thus, there has been not only noticeable growth of the small scale sector, but also the dominance and strength of large and monopoly business houses have increased sustainably. So, guys, as we can see that after 1980, or we can say that after the government has introduced the privatization, many private companies, or we can say many companies in the private sector has been established, and they were running their business very well, and they also doing the production at a very considerable level. by we can say by the diversification of the private sector, the Indian economy has got the growth, and we can also say that the industrial situation or the growth of the industrialization in the country is also increased by the diversification of the private sector. Now, guys, the eighth point that we are having on the screen, that is research and development. In India, India has done the remarkable research and also the development activities. By doing research and development activities, we can get highly efficient machineries. Through that, we can produce many goods at a very lower rate, or at a very lower cost. So, guys, remarkable progress has been achieved on the science and technology front. Many research and development centers have been set up under the CSIR. R&D facilities have also been utilized in the public and private sector as unit. There has been a conspicuous confusion of the foreign technology into the industrial sector. Through foreign collaboration, a wide range of sophisticated manufactured products which were previously imported are now being indigenously produced. So, guys, by doing research and development activities, India has considerably get we can say the various type of machineries and various type of production techniques by which some of the things which we were not producing, we just importing from other countries. Now we are able to do the production of such kind of goods and services that were that we were not able to do that we were not able to produce such things, but now we are able to produce the goods and services by using the technology, and by using the research that we have by using the research we have found some kind of new techniques and the machinery. So by using such kind of machinery and the techniques, we can produce more goods at a very lower cost. Now, guys, we will see the ninth point, that is increase in the share of industrial sector in GDP. Now, what is the share? We can say it is about the contribution that before when India get independence, the agriculture sector has the highest contribution in the national income, or we can say the GDP. But now, the service sector as well as the industrial sector also gives considerably high rate, or we can say the considerably high contribution in the national income, or we can say the GDP. Okay, guys, now we will see industrial slowdown causes and remedies. Means what were the reason for the industrial slowdown? What were the causes, and what can be the remedies for that? So, guys, as we have seen some of the causes, that what were the reason for the industrial slowdown? Let's see, during eighth five-year plan, the performance was based in 1995-96. Uh, in the industrial production increased by 12.8%, but during the year 1996-97, industrial growth slowed down considerably to 5.6%. The slow growth of industrial production was mainly due to the poor performance of the electricity generation and mining. So, guys, how the electricity generation and mining has impacted on the performance of the poor growth rate of the industrial production. So there was the reason of electricity generation, because without the electricity, no industry can do the production work, or when there is no proper infrastructure facility, it was, we can say, the unfavorable condition or the unfavorable situation to any industry to do the production very well. Now the second thing is the slowdown of industrial growth in 19 to slow down the industrial growth in 1996-97 and 1997-98 did not use much panic, as it was expected to be a cyclical downturn of a normal business cycle. It was not indicative of an industrial recession. The slowdown in 1997-1998 was more pronounced for the manufacturing, for in a particular industry output growth recovered in 1998-1999, and in 1999-2000. This did not prove to be sustained industrial recovery. The also lower in comparison to the period of 1980-81 to 1991-92, particularly in the manufacturing, mining, and electricity sector. So, guys, as we can see, it was just a temporary slowdown in the industrial growth rate, and there was no, we can say, the stability or we cannot prove it that it was unstable growth rate of the industrial, we can say industrialization in the country. As the explanation says that it was just a temporary slowdown in the country. The industrial growth the industrial growth slowdown in 2000, 2001 and 2001, 2002 was spread covering all broad sectors such as manufacturing, electricity, mining, and all end-use groups such as capital goods, intermediate goods, and consumer goods, both the durable and non-durable. Manufacturing sector growth declined to 2.9% in 2001 to which was estimated growth in the last 10 years, lowest growth in last 10 years. So guys, here we are given the data of 2001 to, and this is how the in that time uh, we can see that there was a slowdown in the industries like manufacturing, electricity industry, mining industry, and the end use group and group of some of the capital goods industries, and many more people and the industry has been associated with that. And we can say in that time the growth rate has been declined to 2.9 in 2001 to which was the lowest growth rate in the last 10 years. So here we can see the situation of 2001 to, and now we will move further to see the remedial measures that government of India have adjusted various remedial measures for the removal of industrial slowdown as under. What has government done to remove the slowdown, or to, we can say, to face the slowdown against the industrial low growth rate? We will see 100% FDI, foreign direct investment, has been permitted in various sectors such as B2B commerce sector, manufacturing activities in the special economic zones, many activities of telecom sector, airport courier services for development, integrated down drugs, pharmaceuticals, hotel and tourism sector. So government has done in 100% FDI. FDI means foreign direct investment. Foreign people can also come to India and do investment in different kind of sector. So government has opened up such thing to remove of industrial slowdown. Now, second thing that has been done by the government, that is defense industry sector, has been opened up for the private sector participation with FDI investment permitted up to 26%. Then foreign equity up to 100% will be permitted in non-banking finance companies. Then excise duty nationalized to a single rate of 16%. Then we can see over here that central excise net value added tax value, that is 1944, was simplified, and drastic reduction of rules made. And then we can see peak duty of customs reduced from 38.5% to 35% with the abolition of 10% surcharge. So here how the government has reduced some of the tax and the customs on import and exports. Interest rate have been also reduced, and government has also reduced the interest so that people can get can be attracted to get the loan and invest their money in some production houses to contribute the economy with the production that had been done by the people to by getting the loan. So guys, this is what all about the industrial growth, and I have also discussed some of the points which might not considered in your syllabus, but as the material I have, I hardly read some of the points, but it is very easy to understand for you as well as me. So no need to worry about it. You just need to focus on some of the major points that are discussed by me in this chapter. And this is what all about the chapter that we have discussed today. And this is what the industrial growth and the prospect in India. Now guys, if you have any query confusion, then you can contact me. I will try my best to resolve your queries. Goodbye. Thank you.